we will have the American Legion present the colors. If you would remain standing, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Thank you, American Legion. One more round of applause for our veterans. God bless them. Okay. We always like to recognize any elected officials or candidates for office when we do one of these. Representative Neil Collins is in the back. Representative Thomas Beach. If you're a candidate, stand up and wave and tell people your name. All right, April. Clay, where are you at?
I'm hiding. Clay Counts, State House District 4.
Did we miss anybody? Thank you all for stepping up and serving the community. Thank you all. One thing just to avoid any kind of confusion there might be, we are the Pickens County Republican Club. We are not the Pickens County Republican Party. We are an auxiliary group of the South Carolina Republican Party. Our mission is voter education. That's it. That's all we do. That's our function, to try to give you the information you need to make an educated vote when you go to the poll, and so that you have some kind of a relationship with your elected officials. You shake their hand and look them in the eye, and you know more about them than just what you get in a mailbox. The video of this will be available at the Pickens County Pickens County Townhall.com website. Or our Facebook page, Pickens County Republican Club on Facebook. If you would go there and follow us, you will be able to, you'll see what we've got going on. And I'm already talking to two of the other candidates for governor who will be hosting a town hall with them sometime in the near future. And I suspect, since the election is something like a year off, that we'll have Alan Wilson back again sometime between now and then, and a little more time then to do more of a Q&A. Today, because of the constraints on time that we're placing on Alan, not him, it's us, he won't be doing a Q&A today, but he will be talking to you afterwards. After he speaks, he'll be doing like a meet and greet here to talk to you individually. But we need the time. We don't have the time because we got to break down and get out of here for another group that's coming in at 2 o'clock. So it's on us to get out of the way. So he would love to do a Q&A, but we don't have the time today. So now that we've got all that out of the way, let me tell you a little bit about our speaker today, Mr. Wilson. Alan Wilson, AG, Attorney General Alan Wilson, is widely considered to be a top-tier candidate to be the next governor of South Carolina. A.G. Wilson is a graduate of Francis Marion University and a 2002 graduate of the University of South Carolina School of Law. Attorney General Wilson joined the National Guard immediately after graduating from college. Today, he continues his military service as a colonel in the South Carolina National Guard, and hopefully by the end of the year, he'll be a general. Prior to his election, A.G. Wilson spent his legal career as an assistant solicitor, an assistant attorney general, and as a civil litigator in private practice. Attorney General Wilson was elected South Carolina's 51st Attorney General on November the 2nd, 2010, and was reelected for a 4th term as our Attorney General in 2022. And when he was first elected, he was the youngest Attorney General in the nation. And it is my privilege now to introduce Attorney General and candidate for Governor Alan Wilson.
Thank you, Rick.
My pleasure.
May I put this there? All right. Can y'all hear me if I'm not? This is mic'd up to the speakers. Oh, I can walk around. Oh, I love this. I love this. Hey, everyone. It's great to be with you this morning. As you just heard, I'm Alan Wilson. I'm your current Attorney General. Rick, thank you for that warm welcome. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Folks, I am honored to be here today. And before I talk a little bit about what I have done and what I am currently doing as your Attorney General and what I'm going to do as your next governor, if I'm so fortunate to be elected and hired by all of you who I consider my prospective employer as governor, I want to talk to you a little bit about who I am as a person and a couple of brief stories and anecdotes that talk about who I am. First off, I believe that there are a couple of critical moments in our life that take us in the direction where we're going. First, I want to say my biological father was a man named Michael Allen McCrory, who was a Vietnam veteran, and after Vietnam met a young school teacher in Columbia, South Carolina. They got married. He went to Texas to do flight training where he was going to become a Huey pilot, and he was going to fly for the Army. They had me in Texas, came back to Fort Bragg when I was 2 years old. He was tragically killed in a training exercise. My mother returned home to South Carolina with a 2-year-old son. You know, being a widow at the age of 23 with a 2-year-old, you can imagine what that was like in 1975. But lucky for her, 2 years later, she met a young man that she had known from years before. His name was Joe Wilson. Many of you know him in Congress today. They got married 4 months later. He adopted me when I was 4 years old, and we've resided in Lexington ever since. And of course, I believe God put me in his path because the values that I learned from my mom and dad set me on a path to public service that has led me where I am today. I don't know where it's going to lead me in the future, but it's got me to here. And I believe learning and studying at the foot of Joe Wilson played a major role in that. A second story I want to tell you about is in August of 2004, I was deployed overseas. I was serving our country with the Army National Guard, and I was in the northern city of Mosul in northern Iraq. I was a convoy commander leading a convoy to pick up supplies to take back to the southern sector. On the way back, there was an IED, a roadside bomb that went off beside our convoy. Now, for those of you who've served in combat, you know that IEDs are designed to stop a convoy from moving forward, and then when people get out to help the disabled vehicle, what happens? The bad guys, the insurgents, start sniping from the rooftops. Well, the bomb goes off. It was a violent explosion. It propelled my vehicle forward. What I later learned is that the IED detonated right by the tractor-trailer truck behind me, but sent shrapnel through our Humvee, riddling our vehicle with shrapnel. 50 or 60 pieces of shrapnel went between me my assistant driver and the actual driver, and went out through the front windshield. It missed us by inches. We would have been killed. It was a blessing from God that we weren't. It went about 100 yards up, went through the vehicle in front of us. I watched those soldiers pull back into the kill zone. That day, there were no insurgents that were firing, thank God. We didn't know that at the time. But we expected it. I saw young soldiers no older than 22 or 23 years old crawl onto a burning tractor-trailer truck right adjacent to me that had been disabled, pull soldiers out. I was giving the orders to secure the area and then to exit the kill zone. We pulled those soldiers out. We went to a nearby fob where we collected ourselves. No one was hurt that day. The next night, we received small arms fire in downtown Baghdad, but for those 2 incidences, it was a very boring year in Iraq. I can tell you that. But I survived those, having seen the courage in the face of fear of these young men acting with no regard for their safety, and then commanding these soldiers under intense pressure. It taught me 2 lessons. Whenever I'm afraid to do something, I think of those young 20-year-olds crawling onto a burning tractor-trailer truck that seconds later would explode into a fireball. And when I'm thinking about making tough decisions as Attorney General, I'm like, I've already had to make decisions when bullets were flying. You know, making decisions when there are mean people saying things about me or when there are big cases in front of us, it pales in comparison. The last little anecdote I want to share for you is, it's one thing to face your mortality, right? But when you face the mortality of someone in your family, someone that you love, about 3.5 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer. I remember when she got the diagnosis, I remember when she started going through the radical chemo that basically ravaged her body, it destroyed her. I remember when her hair started falling out. My kids and I went on the back porch of our house, and I remember we decided we were going to own it. And my wife, one of her girlfriends was there, and our 2 kids, and I shaved her head because her hair was going to fall out. I said, let's just own it. And we shaved it, and I remember her crying as it was going on. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is real. This is more real to me than what I went through in combat. And after 6 months of chemo, she was cancer-free. When people ask how she's, thank you. When people ask how she's doing, I say she's great. She's still married to me, but other than that, she's fine. But she's great, and she just started a job back this past week, so she's now getting back into her routine. But facing that with her, and by the way, that was going on, all of that was going on while I was spending 6 weeks in that very small trial down in Colleton County. Some of y'all might remember the Alec Murdaugh trial, right? But that was all going on during that time. And so, you know, it was a very difficult time for our family, but we came out of that. And so facing these challenges, I think, has made me uniquely qualified and gives me a perspective, rather, not so much qualified, but gives me a perspective as someone who has to command. Now, I want to say one last thing before I roll into the Office of Attorney General. I see a lot of veterans in here. We got some Navy guys, Army, Air Force folks. My family raised, there's 4 Wilson boys, okay? I'm actually the least successful of my brothers. I got one brother who's an orthopedic surgeon, graduated from Annapolis, served in the Navy for 25 years, and now he's a doctor in the Low Country. Got another brother who served overseas in Africa, was an Army National Guard soldier, is one of the founders of a little tiny company called Palmetto State Armory. For those of you who like to buy guns, they make guns for a living. So he's an arms dealer. And then I've got a third brother who's an engineer. And very successful engineer, and obviously he served in the National Guard as well. But all 4 of us are officers in the military. All 4 of us served overseas. All 4 of us are Eagle Scouts. I don't say that to brag about me and us. I say that to brag about my mom and dad. So I give tip of the hat to my parents. 29 years in the Army, National Guard, currently serving as a colonel, as Rick alluded to. Maybe I get a star this year, maybe I retire next summer, but either way, I'm going to have 30 years under my belt when this thing is over, and I have treasured every moment of it. Thank you. And thank you to the soldiers and sailors, service members. Now, as Rick said, I was elected in 2010. I was 37 years old. I was the youngest Attorney General in the country. Now, at 52, I am the longest-serving Attorney General in the United States of America. And so at 52 years old, I look back at 37 years old, and I'm like, my goodness, they let a baby run the AG's office. I still had Similac on my breath, folks. I mean, I was waddling around in a diaper, and they were like, hey, boss, hey, General, how you doing? The boy AG, but now I've been around, I'm now the Dean of all Attorneys General. I'm the longest-serving Attorney General in the country on either Republican or Democrat side. So I got 70-year-old AGs coming up to me calling me Old Man Wilson, Tell us what it was like in the dark ages. But my tenure and my continuity as AG has allowed me to see a lot of things. I've served not once but 3 times as chairman of the National Republican AG Association. That is important to you because my peers have elected me not once but 3 times to lead our caucus of conservative Republican AGs. I'm the only attorney general in the country. If you need to cut across, go ahead. Y'all feel free to find a seat. I'm the only attorney general in the history of the Republican AG Association who has been elected more than 1 time. I've been elected 3 times. And that should say something about how I'm seen at the national level. In addition to that, when I became attorney general, I think I was a transformational attorney general. For those of you who don't know this, South Carolina did not have a human trafficking task force. In fact, I never ran on human trafficking the first time I ran for AG. Susan Aiken was there. She remembers. She's heard all my speeches, never heard the word human trafficking come out of my mouth. But I quickly realized after being elected that human trafficking is a real thing. It's not something that happens in Hollywood movies. There are real children, real people being either through sex or labor trafficking put into modern day slavery. And it's happening up here in the upstate. I learned that human trafficking is a $150 to $200 billion a year industry worldwide. The United States is the #1 destination for human trafficking in the world. I don't know if you knew that. South Carolina sits nested between 2 of the top 20 human trafficking hubs in the country. That's Charlotte and Atlanta. By the way, what runs between Charlotte and Atlanta? What is Pickens County next to? I-85. You picking up what I'm dropping, folks? Amen. It's a serious issue. The human trafficking trade is vibrant and it is robust. Okay? We created a human trafficking task force, started off with 15 people. We're now over 2,000 people on our listserv, 11 regional task force, including an upstate task force. When I came into the office, the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force had been established by my predecessor, Governor McMaster. We had 8 people. We now have 27 people in our office alone. We went from 44 members of our task force, the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, to over 125 members of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Contrary to what some people might say about me out there who attack me constantly, we are very tough on online predators. We have this expansion of the task force by 400% has led to over 2,600 prosecutions in the last. And it's led to global. Well, we're prosecuting every case that comes before us. Well, if you let me finish my remarks, I'll be happy to answer your questions. We have gone to over 2,600 prosecutions, and we're working with your local solicitor's office. We're working with the local sheriff's office. Every case that we get gets prosecuted. With that being said, moving on, I've been involved in between 200 and 300 legal actions against the Obama and Biden administrations, whether it was Obamacare, whether it was Dodd-Frank, whether it was them suing to shut down the immigration laws in Arizona during the Obama administration when Arizona tried to pass immigration laws to shut down the borders because the Obama administration refused to. When it was the Texas SB 4 2 years ago tried to pass a law because the Biden administration was refusing to shut down the borders. They passed local laws to try to shut down what the feds were refusing to do. We have currently gone to the United States Supreme Court not once but twice to defend those 2 states' ability to pass state laws that shut down the borders when liberal administrations refused to do that. I defended South Carolina's immigration laws 12 years ago. I've defended them at the national level. I'm currently involved in a multi-state amicus brief to support President Trump's executive order that gets rid of the 14th Amendment doctrine of anchor babies, right? Birthright citizenships, where someone can come here, anchor themselves by having a child, and then they get to be here forever. That was established 160 years ago to confer citizenship rights to emancipated slaves, but not to confer citizenship rights to just anybody walking through this country. A French diplomat can't have a baby and then all of a sudden be a U.S. citizen and then go back to France and come back 60 years and avail themselves of all the rights of a U.S. citizen. That is not how it was designed. We're going to try to get that overturned at the U.S. Supreme Court. These are when COVID was going on and the Biden administration was weaponizing organizations like OSHA to try to force 80 million Americans to get vaccines against their own personal views. We went to war with them, and ultimately, collectively, the AGs, the states, and the businesses that filed those lawsuits won. And we pushed back the Biden administration when they tried to pass $400 billion in your tax dollars going to pay off, people's student loans that people took out for completely useless majors at UCLA. We went and we fought and we clawed a lot of that money back on behalf of the taxpayers. These are things that we've done at the state level. I've gone out there and I've defended. When we passed the heartbeat bill here in South Carolina, not once but twice, we had to go to the state Supreme Court. I defended the heartbeat bill several years before. Y'all remember the Dobbs case? That was the case that flipped over the Roe v. Wade jurisprudence from 1973. Well, we went to the U.S. Supreme Court. I supported my good friend, who is the Attorney General of Mississippi, Lynn Fitch, with a number of states, and we joined in her suit and went to the U.S. Supreme Court and defended that, and then we came here and we defended it here in South Carolina. So what I'm telling you is are we perfect? No. Have we won every fight? No. But we have fought every fight that we possibly can. We have gone to the Supreme Court time and time and time and time again. Just last week, I led a 16-state amicus brief to the Court of Appeals in the state of New York because, as some of you remember, a year and a half, 2 years ago, Donald Trump was being indicted by federal and state officials. The Attorney General of New York, who I know personally, had campaigned that she was going to get the president, and she kept her campaign word. She went after him, and then they sued him for civil fraud because he and the banks and the lending institutions that were on parity decided that, you know, the president wanted to use his properties to get favorable terms, and so he said, banks, here's my property. They evaluated them. Now they're saying he inflated the value of his properties to get favorable terms. Then the judge up there fined him $500 million on a civil fraud case. Did you know that got overturned this week? We went to the Court of Appeals in New York. I'm getting there. If you go Google her name, Tish James, there is actually, she owns a house in the Commonwealth of Virginia where she actually signed a document saying that this is her owner-occupied home, that she could get favorable rates from property taxes, but she's required by law to live in New York State. Oops. So be careful when you weaponize the law against your enemies, because then if they apply the same standard against you, especially when you're actually guilty of it, it doesn't look good, folks. And so that's one of the reasons I went to New York City last summer, and I sat behind the president during his criminal trial. And I actually had conversations with him when the judge went in the chambers. We actually talked about the case. I went out and stood in front of a very hostile press corps with Kash Patel, and we basically defended the president. And I defended the president then. This is something that a lot of people didn't know, and I talked about this when, for those of you who went to the Silver Elephant, it was the first time I had publicly stated it, and some of you weren't at the Silver Elephant. I'll tell you something I wasn't able to talk about for 4 years. You're going to hear a lot of candidates. They're going to talk about how pro-Trump they are, how MAGA they are, and that's fine. They may be. I'm not going to take that away from them. It is easy to go into a room of a bunch of conservative people who love the president and say pro-Trump things and say pro-Republican things, pro-conservative things. When everyone's behind you cheering, it doesn't take a lot of courage. But when I joined in the case in 2020 on the election integrity case, all right, that ended up going to the Supreme Court, I had 32 complaints filed against me for joining in that election integrity case in defense of the president. 32 complaints were filed with the Office of Disciplinary Counsel at the Supreme Court to try to take my law license, which means I couldn't be Attorney General. So they were trying to take my livelihood. They were trying to take my title for 4 years, and spent roughly a little over $100,000 to defend my name and to defend my livelihood because of what I did defending the president and defending the rule of law. And on June of this year, all those cases were finally dismissed after 4 years of litigating them with the ODC. Not a lot of people knew that because I couldn't talk about it. It's dismissed now, I can talk about it. But the point is it's easy to be and say and do the right things and believe the right things when the wind's at your back and everyone's agreeing with you. But try doing and saying and believing the right things when they're going to try to either kill you or kill your livelihood. Not to be overly dramatic, right? But to take your license from you. I've actually, going back, making tough decisions is what I've made a career doing. Now, have I made every decision I've made in the last 14 and a half years right? No. Tell me someone who's made perfect decisions. On any given day, I have 350 employees, 90 of them are lawyers. We manage a docket of 8,000 cases. And will someone be able to go back and cherry pick a case and then take it out of context and then attack me with it? Of course they will. Will there be one of my 90 lawyers that had a case that I knew nothing about and gave a deal that people didn't agree with? Sure. They'll cherry pick it and then they'll attack me, and that's fine. I'm okay with it. But what I have tried to do my entire life is be a voice for victims and give power to people who had no power. When I was a young line prosecutor prosecuting child sex crimes, which is what I was before I was the Attorney General, I prosecuted a case up here in the upstate. It involved a young girl who between the ages of 12 and 15 had been sexually molested by a man who was her grandfather and a retired police officer. Okay? Between 12 and 15, he did unspeakable and horrible things. There's some young people in here, I'll clean it up. Did bad things to her. At age 17, she came forward. At age 19, it landed on my desk. Trey Gowdy was the solicitor at the time, so he conflicted it to the Attorney General's office where I was prosecuting those cases. Went to Spartanburg, 8 days in trial, prosecuted that case. At the end of the case, that man was found guilty. And when the judge read the sentence of 18 years in prison, and by the way, well, I'll get to that in a minute. When he read the charges, the young woman began to cry. And we were leaving the courthouse. I remember putting my arm around her. I was like, why are you crying? I thought you would be happy. And she stopped me. And before I tell you what she said, some of you have heard this story before. The man, as I told you, was her grandfather and a retired police officer, would say things to her like, no one will believe you because I'm a cop and you're a kid. No one, not only they will not believe you, but he would explain to her, a 12-year-old girl, what reasonable doubt meant, and that he only needed 1 out of 12 jurors to believe one element, or not believe one element, and he would walk. He would say, if you tell anyone, the family will be destroyed. You'll split us in half. He was right about the last thing, because half the family was sitting behind him and half the family was sitting by her in trial. But as we walked out of the room, now that you know the frame, how this little girl had to bear that for all those years, she looks up at me through her watery eyes, and she looks at me when I say, why are you crying? She says, Alan, you don't understand. I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I'm happy. For the first time in my life, I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. Yes. Folks, I wasn't alone. There was another prosecutor sitting there next to me. He's actually running for Attorney General right now. You might hear from him one day. I had law clerks. We had investigators, sheriff's deputies, forensic folks. We had the judge was there, the jury was there, the court staff, the clerk of court. Everyone played their role in the criminal justice system. Okay, everyone had a role to play. But I got to play a role in being a voice for a young person who had no voice. I got to play a role in being a bridge from a person being a victim to being a survivor, from having no power to having power. And when I decided, when the opportunity to run for Attorney General 15, 16 years ago opened up, I said to myself, I love the challenges of leadership, and I want to do for more people what I did for that one young woman, is to empower people and be a voice for them. And so that is why I ran for Attorney General. Okay, that's the why. Okay, and so for the last 15 years, I've been trying to do that by creating the Human Trafficking Task Force, expanding the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, defending the rule of law, protecting the Constitution, defending the unborn, defending the weak, defending, when the legislature passes a law that says boys can't go in the girls' bathrooms, I went to court to defend it. I'm in court right now. We got some legislators in here who all supported it. Thank you. I'm in there right now doing that. When we passed a law saying that you can't mutilate a minor child and inject them with hormones to transition them, they sued us to say, yes, you should be able to mutilate a 10-year-old or inject them with hormones if they want to be in the opposite gender. I defended that case in federal court, and then I jumped in the Tennessee case and went to the Supreme Court in December, and it came back in the Scrimeti case where the Supreme Court said in Tennessee's law, which is the same as ours, yes, the states have a right to protect children from that. And now we can do it here in South Carolina. That is why I ran for Attorney General, to protect people. Now, the opportunity to run for governor. It's been 16 years since there's been an open race for governor, and for 16 years, I've been very happy and content to be Attorney General. But when you go in and you see inefficiencies in government, when you see bad government, and I've seen lots of bad government, okay? You can't prosecute you can't prosecute people for being inefficient or stupid or moronic, okay? There are corruption, there are elements of corruption, all right? If you could prosecute stupidity and lunacy, think of how many people in government would be in jail right now. The point is that as Attorney General, I had a unique set of tools. It's like a golf club bag, right? Those of you who golf, there are certain clubs you use for certain things, right? You don't use a putter from the tee. You don't use Big Bertha on the green, right? You use the right club for the right situation. When you're in the sand or wherever you are, you use the right club. The governor is uniquely situated to be the bully pulpit for South Carolina, to be a voice, to be the face, to recruit industry, to go ahead and lead the legislature, right? The Attorney General has a bully pulpit. It's not as big. It's big, not as big. Now, people say the governor's a weak governor here in South Carolina. Well, it is weaker relative to the legislative branch of government, but it is not weak, okay? And so I believe that the Attorney General, where I was observing inefficiencies in government, I could not prosecute them or sue on them. But the governor can do things from a policy and from a leadership position that the Attorney General is not capable of doing. And that has led me to consider of offering myself to be your next governor. And that is why I'm running. Now, what am I going to do as governor? Broadly speaking, folks, I'm going to give you the bumper sticker, and we'll drill down into it. And I know Rick said that I wouldn't take questions, but I'm not going to leave until those of you who have a question. There's someone in the back that's got a lot of questions for me. You want to ask me tough questions, fine. I'm happy to take your questions before I leave. I'm not going to hold up this room for the next group, but I will stay around and answer your questions because I view every one of you as my employer, okay? Now, I may not have the right answer. I may not have an answer at all, but I will do my best to answer your question. But as governor, there's a couple things I want to do. I want to eliminate the income tax for South Carolina once and for all. I want to doge all of South Carolina, from school districts to municipal governments to county governments to state agencies, and back down again. And I'm using the term doge because we all know what it means, but I was thinking about this before Trump got reelected and before we all heard of the Department of Government Efficiency. I've been saying this for 10 years, and I got some ideas about that. I want to reform our education system. I want to prioritize infrastructure, and by infrastructure, not just roads, and I hear y'all have bad bridge issues up here, right? I'm with you, okay? Not just roads and bridges, but energy grid, right? Try building a house and not having any plumbing or outlets. Try to bring in fixtures and refrigerators and TVs if there's no outlets. You got to plumb the state like it's a house. You got to have an energy grid that can serve the needs of the people and the businesses that are here and the businesses that want to move here. Okay, in addition to that, I want to reform our education system. I've got some ideas about that, and protecting families, #1 priority for me. There's a reason 75% of Republican elected sheriffs have endorsed me in the first 4 weeks of my announcement as governor. I believe more sheriffs are to come. And I'm grateful to Sheriff Blankenship for putting his support on me. 75% of the Republican sheriffs are with me because of what I have demonstrated, what I've done for public safety. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go back to the beginning. Do I have enough time to talk a little bit about, I've given you guys the bumper sticker. Eliminating the income tax. I know what you're thinking, for those of you who are thinking, where are you getting the revenue, Wilson? You eliminate all that money, how are we paying for stuff, right? Knucklehead. I know what y'all are thinking. That's what I'm kidding, but I'm sure you're asking these questions.
15, 20, 30 minutes.
I still want their vote, Rick. I'm not going to talk that long. By the way, if folks are standing out there, don't feel like you can't walk in while I'm talking. I have no problem. These nice waitresses are walking by me. Do we have some seat? We have one seat over here, 2 seats over here. We have 1, 2 seats at this table. Is Mr. West coming back? He's fine. You got a young one up here, and grab some chairs. Y'all bring some chairs in. Seriously, guys, I really don't mind. This is family style. We're one big family. Okay. You got 3 chairs back there? Y'all, here's your chance. I'm pausing for intermission break. All right, they're going to stand out there and listen from a distance. Okay. Well, feel free to, get your pudding. Come on in. All right. Okay, let's talk about the income tax. Folks, if you were to draw a line down the middle of the country and you were to bisect it and dissect it, the bottom right quadrant, the southeastern quadrant, if you look at what we're doing, what states are doing in the southeastern quadrant, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida are already at 0% income tax. Oklahoma, Mississippi, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Indiana have passed laws to go to 0% income tax. The closest state to us on an income tax rate is the state of Alabama at 5%. We're at 6%. In the next 2 years, Georgia will be at 4.99%, and North Carolina will be at 3.99%. We are at 6%. Okay, we have the highest marginal income tax in the country. You have to go as far as Oregon or Washington State. And by the way, you have to pass over Illinois to get there, and they're lower than we are. Okay? Oregon or Washington State to find a state with a higher income tax, and you have to go as high as New Jersey to find a state with as high as an income tax as we do. Okay? That's how far you have to go to find a state. If we're going to compete global, not just regionally, not just nationally, but globally. The Southeast is the fastest growing region in the United States of America. We need to give money back to people so that you can invest money back into your families and back to your businesses and attract new businesses who would come here if the tax rates were competitive. And where are you going to get the money from? Let me tell you. Look at the last 10 years. We got some legislators in here who are watchdogs for the taxpayer. I know you guys have got a great delegation, okay? Keep sending them. over a 10-year period from 2013 to 2024, South Carolina state government spending grew at 6.5%. Population plus inflation grew at 3.4%. Let me say that again. We were growing 3.1% faster. We were spending 3.1% faster than we were growing over a 10-year period. For those of you that run businesses, spend 3.1% more money than you make over a 10-year period and get back to me. Let me know how that goes for your business. Had we capped the rate of state government spending, indexed it against population plus inflation over that same 10-year period, the estimates I've seen have been about $19.7 to $2 billion returned in permanent tax cuts to taxpayers, as an example. What you do is you cap the rate of spending to population plus inflation every year, and all the revenue that comes in above that goes back to the taxpayers. And then you ratchet it down like a plane on a glide path to a landing pad, right, to a landing strip. You can do it over an 8, 10, 12, 15-year period. But here's what you're doing. You're signaling to everyone in the world, South Carolina's going to 0% income tax. A couple things happen. You all start investing your money back in your businesses. People start spending money on things. Businesses who are here start thriving. Businesses outside of the South Carolina say, hey, we want to go there now. People want to move, the right kind of people want to move here, and all of a sudden the pie gets bigger for everyone and all boats lift. That's the first thing we do. We also got to look at property taxes. Act 388 passed many years ago. It put owner-occupied homes in first class, put commercial and rental properties in steerage. I do not want to take owner-occupied homes out of first class. Trust me, I'm one of you. I want to stay in first class. But why are we putting everyone back in steerage? Here's the problem. The unintended consequence of that is middle-class people end up paying more money. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine, 8,000 square foot home he lives in. He says, Alan, I have a bunch of rental properties. They're all about 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. All of my tenants are lower middle income people. He says, when I pay property tax, the property taxes on a 1,500 square foot house is higher than the property tax on my 8,000 square foot house. And I'm passing that property tax on in part of my rent to that tenant. And so they're paying more in property taxes for me than I am on myself. And so that's the unintended, so we need to look at that. And I don't have a plan right now, but we are looking at that right now. We're going to come up with a policy to address that. That is one thing that I want to do. So cutting the income tax, reevaluating the property tax, those are a couple things. I want to pivot a little bit to infrastructure. Folks, we got to focus and reprioritize on roads and bridges and the energy grid. One of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to create, there's a couple of vacancies in state government. I'm going to repurpose those. I'm going to have a person I'm going to dedicate as my senior energy advisor. All they're going to do is work with utility companies, work with outside for-profit companies like Duke and Dominion, et cetera. They're going to work with the legislature, and all they're going to do 100% of the time, 7 days a week, 365, is focus on energy. They will speak with the voice of the governor. They will make recommendations to me on how to grow our energy grid. Another thing we got to look at on roads and bridges. I don't think we need to raise the gas tax, but I'll tell you what I think we can do. The largest property owner in the state of South Carolina is the state of South Carolina. Okay? So how many of you drive down the interstate and you see those big patches of grass between the interstates, and then you see about 100 feet on either side of the interstate? Other states, and there may be federal impediments, but people are looking at, why don't we monetize that? Why don't we go with public-private partnerships so that rest stops are in the center of the interstate with Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and Burger King and Spink's and Buc-ee's or whatever in the middle of the interstate. You can pass accessibility fees on top of the gas pump. You can pay an extra 5 or 10 cents at the gas pump for there, not on the other pumps, just the ones on the interstate system. Pass that to roads and bridges. People want to pay the extra fee to use that. And listen, we have land that we own and we're not using it. Largest landowner in the state is not renting the land. We need to evaluate how to better use that. Frankly, people want to be on the outside of the interstate. They pay a little bit less to be there. People want to be in the middle of the interstate. They pay a little bit more because you're getting two-way traffic in the middle of the interstate. They're doing this in Oklahoma. They're doing this in other states. We can do it here. Another thing is, think of all those state government buildings. I look around Columbia. We're not getting a lot of property taxes in certain areas because all the state government buildings take up places. Why are we not putting retail and restaurants on the downstairs floor of government buildings and then have mixed use for government, every new state government building when I'm governor is going to be mixed use. So there's public and private partnership. You're collecting tax revenue and not giving, and you're not losing it, you're collecting it and you're incentivizing that public-private partnership. These are being innovative, being smart. I want to pivot to education real quick. okay? By the third grade, statistically, you can tell where a child is going to end up, right? By the third grade, if we have any educators in here. That is why I'm a big believer in investing in children as early as possible, because we don't investigate in 3- and 4-year-olds. By the time, we're going to either be paying for their education when they're 3 and 4 years old in early phonics, reading, and math comprehension, or we're going to be paying for them on entitlement programs and more penitentiaries, okay? One way or the other. So the twig bends, the mighty oak grows, right? These children are twigs. I'd rather bend them as a twig than chop them down as an oak, okay? We got to invest in them in earlier. That's what we got to reprioritize and reform in our education. By the way, technical colleges, awesome. Not everybody needs a 4-year degrees. In fact, sometimes 4-year degrees are a waste of money for a lot of people, right? Technical colleges are the right way to go, and you can have a very successful life. Do you know how many people we turn down every year who want to apply to go to a technical college to get an associate's degree or a certification in something? How many, anyone want to guess? 4,000 to 5,000 applicants a year. Think about that in a rural area where a young person wants to get their CDL and drive trucks, open up their own trucking company, or maybe be a welder, or a nurse tech, or a rad tech, or one of those ultrasound techs, right? We're turning them away. We're not certifying them because we don't have the space. I talked to college presidents. Why don't we have the space? One technical college president said, Alan, I can put 35, 45, 55 kids in an English class. I can't put that many kids in a welding class because half of them walk out like this, right? Because this, for safety purposes, and the instructor-to-student ratio has to be different than in a general education course. By the way, speaking of general education courses, North Carolina has a uniform, statewide dual enrollment program. Now, we have a dual enrollment program here in South Carolina, but it is not uniform depending on what school district you're in. And why is that important? Because there are kids in certain areas of the state who are knocking out nearly, well, actually, let me go closer to home. My niece has knocked out 2 years of college before she even started her first day at USC, right? My nephew did the same thing. He went to Clemson. I'm being bipartisan. Did you see that? All right? Okay, yeah, because I know there's both of you in here, so I can love both sides. In all seriousness, imagine the family. For the kids who have the inclination and the aptitude, who want to go to a 4-year college, all right, but they can't afford it, all right? Imagine them knocking out an entire either associate's degree or 2 years of a 4-year college in general education requirements before they ever graduate high school. Imagine if they just wanted an associate's degree and the day after they graduate high school, they're there. Or what if we want to bake in all the school districts, the kids that want to get a CDL or a welding certification? We need to expand our dual enrollment program. Other states have done it, and we can do it here in South Carolina, making education more accessible for families living in the margins, especially in rural areas. So let's say we've talked about education, we talked a little bit about infrastructure, a little bit about energy, we talked about tax reform, judicial reform. I've lobbied hard for that. We moved the needle about 60% of where I wanted. I'm not done as governor. We need to go further. I'm happy to drill down into that. But folks, and Rick, I know this, you said it's 12 o'clock, so how?
You get to about 12:15 and then you can do
Do the award. Do you want me to do a couple questions, or you want me to just to kind of wrap up?
It's entirely up to you. It's your time. As long as we finish, as long as we wrap up. And
all right, I'm keeping my eye on the clock because I want to be respectful. I blasted you on the face of a fire hose of information, folks, and I could talk this fast and for probably twice as long. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of come to a landing, and then I'm going to use the balance of the time that was given to me to try to answer a couple of questions, and then we're going to pivot to an award, okay? And then I'll stick around if I can't get to every question. But let me start the conclusion by saying this. There's a lot more I want to do. And as governor, I'm not just campaigning to tell all of you what I want to do as your governor. I'm campaigning because I want to learn what you want your governor to do for you. As I talk to businesses, as I talk to individuals, I'm getting a lot of ideas that I'm building into policy proposals. And as your governor, I will have a feedback loop. There will be members of the legislature who are going to have ideas, and I want to be a bully pulpit for them. The governor has to be a person who's not just good at saying no and being against stuff that's bad. The governor also has to be a person who is good at taking a bad thing and making it mostly good. If you want something that is perfect, you will never get it from your government. The governor has to be able to move a very diverse group of people in the legislature. And we got some House members in here. There's one speaker in the House, and there's 46 speakers in the Senate. Am I right? Amen? Right? So you have to be, one senator can block something, so it is very difficult. And so the governor has to be someone that can work with a broad coalition of people. I think I can do that. Another thing I want all of you to know, that if you are looking for a governor who you're going to agree with every single time, and if you're looking for a governor who doesn't make mistakes or makes bad decisions or does something politically you disagree with, if you're looking for a governor who will be 100% on the ball every single day that they are in office, I am not your guy. You need to go support one of the other wonderful candidates in this race, okay? What I am promising you is this. As Attorney General, I have learned from my mistakes. I have fought to get better and deliver good government from the office of the Attorney General. I will do the same as your governor. If I am wrong on something, I'm happy to reverse course and go a different direction. If I am wrong on something, I'm willing to sit down with you and listen to all the stakeholders on an issue. All right? I am willing to make the compromises needed to get an 85% solution across the finish line and then come back for the other 15 or 20%. That's what I'm doing with judicial reform. That's what I will do with the issues that are important to you. As your governor, I want you to know this. South Carolina needs a governor who can be an agent of change and an agent of reform without being an agent of chaos. There are going to be people out there that will scream. The things that I have heard said about me, either categorically lies or false, things I've heard said about me out of context at a minimum. But people are going to say crazy things in this campaign, all right? They're going to try to create chaos, and they're banking on you. There are people campaigning on the belief that you are stupid and that you will believe whatever you read on social media and that they can get more clicks, more eyeballs, and more time on TV than they're more electable. There are people out there who will tell you that they are the most pro-Trump person and they were with Trump when no one was with Trump. I've already heard one speech saying that someone was with Donald Trump back in January of 2023, and Alan Wilson wasn't up there on stage with him when he announced here in South Carolina. Well, they were right. I wasn't on stage with Donald Trump in January of 2023 because I was in Colleton County on the Murdaugh trial. Right? I had someone the other day say, you know, we fought for the heartbeat bill. Like, well, yeah, no, I was in court. It was my name on the pleading. People are going to say things and people are going to do things. All I'm asking is, I'm asking for the opportunity. If you're not ready to jump on board today, that's fine. If you're already with me, and some of you are and you've said so, thank you. Thank you for trusting me with your vote and your support. I will fight hard for you. If you are not there yet, if you're still a little cynical or maybe you're just not ready to make that commitment, I want the opportunity to talk to you. I want the opportunity to earn your support. And if I'm able to get it, great. If I don't get it, you might fall into that third camp. You might be someone who's going with one of the other candidates. And if you decide to go with one of the other candidates or you're already leaning that way, come on through here. If you're already there, that's okay. Republican primaries is just a big family meeting. It lasts about a year or so, 10 months left. And in that family meeting, we're arguing with each other. And after the meeting is over, hopefully we all get behind a decision and we come out as a family together behind one person. I hope I'm that person. If I'm your second or even third choice and I win the nomination, I hope you'll give me a chance to be your first choice all over again. I will work hard for you. And I want to thank you for being attentive listeners today. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present my case to you. There's a lot more to say, but I want to reserve a little bit for a question or two. And then obviously we have another presentation to do. So Rick, thank you for this opportunity, and Republican friends, thank you. So. You want to do the award now and then do Q&A?
Or you want to do a couple questions?
You said to 12:15 and it's 12:08. What do y'all want to do?
All right. Okay, we'll do a couple of questions real quick.
Okay.
Introduce yourself and ask your question.
Hello, my name is Trey Bobby Worley, and first off, I do want to say thank you for being, as Attorney General, for prosecuting the man who poisoned my brother with fentanyl. But I also want to question, how do you plan on, as governor, to enforce drugs that's coming in, like fentanyl and all that stuff? Like, how do you plan on enforcing that?
So, as Attorney General, I've already been working on this issue. I talked about the southern border earlier, and I talked about the human trafficking trade. Well, drug trafficking, there has been a mass migration of drug and fentanyl over the southern border into the United States. The major hub for that in the southeast is Atlanta. okay? I-85 and I-20 are arteries into the state. Like I said, we are the front porch. When people ask me what keeps you awake at night, the things that keep me awake at night, fentanyl. I mean, I'm not kidding. Everybody in this room knows someone who's lost a loved one or has heard of someone who's lost a loved one. Beginning of last year, we announced a case that is still ongoing called Devil in Disguise. Seized enough fentanyl in the upstate alone. 1 kilo of fentanyl is what we seized, is enough to kill 500,000 people. There was a tractor-trailer truck that the DEA caught in Lexington, my home county, that had 136 pounds, or 156 pounds of fentanyl, which is enough to kill 36 million Americans. But in one case up here, enough to kill 500,000 people. We indicted 6 of those, I think 40-something defendants. We indicted 6 of them for murder because they gave fentanyl to someone, they gave a fentanyl-laced drug to people that they knew would die when they took it. That is no difference than me pointing a gun at you, pulling the trigger, knowing that you will die if the bullet hits you. So we indicted them for murder. I subsequently went to the General Assembly and lobbied for the fentanyl by homicide or homicide by fentanyl bill, which obviously gives all prosecutors that extra element that they can go after and get you for homicide. If you don't have to know that they're going to die, you just have to know that fentanyl is in the drug and then they happen to die. In this particular case, I had to prove that they knew the person was going to die. That's the difference. But I lobbied for that. I went to the White House and the president passed the bill that reclassified fentanyl and all fentanyl-related drugs under one category, which makes it easier for federal and state prosecutors to go after fentanyl trafficking. But fentanyl trafficking, cocaine, meth, heroin, all of our biggest drug trafficking cases are upstate cases, all of them. And it's all coming in across South Carolina. We're fighting. And as governor, I'm going to make law enforcement a #1 priority. We're going to prioritize giving tools, staffing, resources to frontline law enforcement, frontline prosecutors to go after these thugs. They don't need to be in the jail. They need to be under the jail. We're going to continue to do it when I'm governor.
Have another question?
Ma'am, you had a question earlier.
I have a lot of questions, actually. One, what is your conviction
Hey,
rate?
hold on just a second. Take the mic. But
How many of those were pleas, and how many of those were pleas of sexual assault against minors?
Most cases are pleas across the board.
Your job is to bring justice. Your job is to bring vindication to victims. And if those victims aren't feeling vindicated, do you really feel like you're being successful at your job?
Ma'am,
Do you feel like
how?
you should get a promotion for failing at your job?
Well, first off, ma'am, if somebody wants to say they're guilty of a crime as opposed to being proved that they committed a crime,
That's a plea agreement. That's not
that-
convicting them of the crime that was brought to them.
if someone says, I hurt a child and I'm going to throw myself on the mercy of the court as opposed to making us prove that they hurt a child,
Or pleading down sexual assaults to battery, that's not okay.
well,
That's not what that is.
Well, first off, ma'am, there are tens of thousands of cases out there. I can't, if you have a specific case, I'm happy to go look at what you're talking about. But there are lots of cases where the feds get the case, we dismiss the charges because the feds are taking it because it's a multi-state.
Local cases.
No, some of these cases may have a multi-jurisdictional component to it.
These don't, that I'm speaking of.
Well, what I'm saying is that there may be something elementally problematic. There may be an issue with discovery. There may be an issue with the evidence. There are thousands. You're making a blanket statement, and each case is different. When the prosecutors go in there, and by the way, some of these cases take years to even get to court. You got murders and rape and armed robbery and breach of trust and property crimes and all kinds of crimes out there, not just predatory crimes and internet safety crimes. You have tens of thousands of crimes. There's only so many there's only so many trial terms. There's only so many prosecutors, only so many
In the idea of trying to save time in the courts.
It's not about time. It's not about time, ma'am.
Children deserve more than that.
Well, what I'm telling you, ma'am, is that when someone comes to us and says, I'm willing to plead guilty of the crime that you have charged me with,
But that's not what's happening. We're pleading them down to something much less.
well, they may be being,
Sexual assault versus battery.
they may be pled down because there is something problematic with that specific case. Every case,
More than just one case.
well, ma'am, listen, we're not going to waste the people's time talking broadly. You would.
I think trying to protect our children is a waste of time.
this is not a debate.
Yeah, we're not going to debate. You are making a broad allegation. You're talking about thousands of cases. Well, prove
The allegation wrong.
that my position's wrong. You can't do it. If you want to talk about a specific case, I'll be happy to go get the prosecutor and get the facts and have a specific conversation about a specific case. I'll be happy to do that with you. Are there any actual real questions about running for governor or anything else that y'all would like to talk about?
Anybody else have a question?
Yes, sir.
You know what I hate about
Hold on. Here you go.
is how are we gonna replace you? How are we gonna replace a good man like you in this position?
Look, here's the thing. There are going to be a bunch of people running for AG, and I trust y'all to make the right decision, like I trust you to make the right decision. The governor's race. Hope it's me, but I trust y'all to do it. Y'all gave me this job the first time, so I think y'all will do it again. Any other questions?
Anybody want to raise their hand? Okay. If you would, just stand up and introduce yourself and ask your question.
I'm Yusuf Kobach, and I just wanted to ask.
What was your first name again?
Yusuf Kobach.
Yusuf.
Yes, sir. And I wanted to ask about this income tax. You said that, you wanted to get rid of it to help businesses,
That's one thing. That's
Yeah.
not the silver bullet, but that is one major thing we can do.
So, okay, but just a concern is, usually states that get rid of income tax usually passes a tax burden onto like property tax and sales tax, and that affects low-income residents and people who are more likely to invest in businesses and go into businesses and buy, consumer goods and so on and so forth. So I would say, how would you, work with that, getting rid of the income tax without it affecting low-income residents who, would help businesses in the long run? If you're trying to increase purchasing power for consumers, to stimulate consumer spending and so on and so forth. I don't.
Yusuf, thank you for your question.
Absolutely.
It's a legitimate question. I kind of already addressed it, but I'll address it again, and I'll try to explain it better. We're not ending the income tax today, and then tomorrow we're relying on another form of revenue. We're capping government spending to a rate that is predictable over the next several years. If population plus inflation, you got to index it, right, is growing at this rate, we're going to keep spending at that rate. And then we're going to return all of that money in the form of tax cuts to people. So it's not like we're getting rid of the income tax, and over time, we will ratchet the income tax down to zero. Now, here's the beauty of that plan. During that ratcheting down, if we start to see not an income disparity, but a tax, we're relying more on sales tax or property taxes, we have a period of years to adjust it. So it's not like we're ending it one day and then we're having to scramble to replace it the next day. But we're slowly allowing more investment to come into the state. And by the way, people in the lower income, when people say, if any of you ever read Thomas Sowell, but he talked about this years ago. He said, people living in the lowest income tax bracket, and they say the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, they're not talking about the same people. Very few people stay in the same income bracket their entire life, the bottom quintile. The people in the bottom two quintiles, they don't stay there. So my goal is to get them out of that quintile by giving them the opportunity to invest in businesses. There may be new people coming up behind them, and maybe their incomes are lower as a percentage of the total population. But the point is giving everyone an opportunity to climb the mobility ladder and to get into middle to upper middle class, and hopefully in the first class. I mean, not first class, but the highest tax bracket, because I want everyone to make as much money. But the point is we're not going to just cut one tax and then let all revenue fall on the other things. We're going to do it gradually, and then we're going to adjust as we go. Other states are able to do it. South Carolina can too. All right. We have to pivot now. I'm going to pivot to Rick. I want to say this before we pivot. I know that there's some folks in here probably not a big fan of me. All right. But this is what I want to say. And I'm going to say this about my record as AG. 90 lawyers out of 350 moving a caseload of an average of 8,000 cases a day times 15 years, okay? 99% of the cases I never even touch. If there is a bad decision made by a lawyer, okay, then you can hold that against me. That's fine. I'm responsible for everything that happens or doesn't happen. But as a matter of policy, I have tried to go hard after predators, traffickers, fentanyl distributors, people who try to hurt you, and I will continue to do that as governor. And so we can cherry pick apart a very vast resume, but I believe that overall, my resume and me as a candidate stands above all, and I look forward to talking to you over the next 10 months. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for the opportunity to earn your vote.
And now the Attorney General will present. I'll let him tell you. This is a very special award, I think, to a very special lady.
I'm pulling up my remarks. Oh, you got, okay, you're going to make,
Well, they printed that up for you. I didn't.
all right, guys, I'm 52, my eyes are 82, so,
I'm right there with you, man.
yeah, you have this like an 8-point font. My staff, y'all should see my phone. I got it like in the largest
I
font.
blame Dawn. She printed that out for us.
Okay.
Whichever one you'd rather use. I mean, whatever you're comfortable with.
All right, folks. Today we come together for something very special. We are here not only to recognize leadership, but to honor a woman whose strength, courage, and compassion have turned personal tragedy into a powerful movement of hope and change. It is my privilege to present the Guiding Star Award to Kim Gillespie Chastain. Stand right here. I got some more things to read about you. Oh, somebody get her a tissue. We're going to cry together. Folks, I got some more to read about her. But I didn't want to step on the applause because she deserves it. When I was talking about fentanyl trafficking in relation to your question, I looked over at her because I don't think it's more real for anyone than her. When we talk about leaders, we often picture elected officials or CEOs, but true leadership comes from the heart. It is born out of the willingness to stand in the storm, to face unimaginable loss, and to use that pain to light the way for others. Kim embodies that kind of leadership. Many of us know her story. Kim lost her beloved daughter, Emily, to fentanyl. Emily was full of life, with dreams, laughter, and love, and that touched everyone around her. Her story is one no mother should ever have to tell, and yet Kim has shared it, not for sympathy, but for strength. She speaks Emily's name so the world will remember her and so that other families might be spared from the same heartbreak. Out of that unimaginable grief, Kim chose not to silence, but action. She became a voice for the voiceless, an advocate for families who have suffered in the shadows, and a fighter determined to stop fentanyl from stealing more lives. In 2023, she helped found Foothills Fentanyl Fight, a community coalition here in Pickens County. Its mission is as urgent as it is noble, to raise awareness, prevent fentanyl-related deaths, and fight the stigma surrounding addiction and overdose. Under Kim's leadership, this coalition has become more than an organization. It's a lifeline. Through education programs, community forums, partnerships with schools, churches, and law enforcement, Foothills Fentanyl Fight has sparked conversations that saved lives. Parents who once felt powerless now feel equipped. Young people who once saw drugs as harmless now understand the risk. Families who once carried their grief in silence now have a community that surrounds them with love and support. Kim's impact can be measured only by events or programs. It is measured in the lives saved, the conversation started, and the healing that has begun. It is measured in the courage of families who now step forward, knowing they are not alone. But what makes Kim so remarkable is not just what she does, it's how she does it. She leads with compassion, with determination, and with fierce love for Emily. Emily's spirit lives on in every life Kim touches, in every parent she comforts, in every person she warns, and every victory this community wins against fentanyl. We often say that stars guide us in the darkest nights. Kim, you are that star. She has taken the darkness, deepest pain so that there can be purpose. Even in loss, there can be legacy, and through her, Emily's light continues to shine. Today, as we present Kim with the Guiding Star Award, we do so not only to honor her, but to affirm that her fight matters, her leadership matters, and her courage has inspired us all to take action, to break the silence and never give up on protecting our families and our future. Kim, on behalf of the Pickens County Republican Club, the Foothills Fentanyl Fight Coalition, and this entire community, thank you. Thank you for your bravery, for your advocacy, and for reminding us that even in the face of heartbreak, hope can prevail. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in celebrating the recipient of the 2025 Guiding Star Award, Kim Gillespie Chastain. Can I hug you? this stuff out in front so they can get the picture. Rick, come here.
Absolutely. You both look good. All right, I think that'll do it. Kim? You know, the one thing about getting an award like this, you know you have to say a word or two.
Well, I was sitting out there in the hallway thinking, I really wish they'd have let me go first, because that's going to be hard to follow.
I'll stand right here.
Because this is definitely not my safe space, being in front of people.
I'm gonna be
I just
riding
want to
for
say
2
thank
hours
you
in the
again,
car.
and I'll be honest, when I was told about this
Yes,
award
sir.
a few weeks ago, it kind of threw me off a little bit, because I'm for sure more comfortable in the back of the room than I am the front of the room. But I am very honored that you've chose me for this, and that you've shined a light on our group here in Pickens County, the Foothills Fentanyl Fight. I wanted to take just a couple of minutes today to tell you a little bit about how our group came to be and what we do here in Pickens County. On March 20th, 2022, fentanyl came into our family's lives when we lost our daughter, Emily Turner. For the next year, I literally read everything I could get my hands on about this drug that I knew hardly anything about. I was shocked to learn that so many stories like our own from all over the country and here in our county. All I could think is, why haven't I heard of this? And why is this not on the news every day? So many people were dying. In 2022, the year my daughter passed away, there were 107,941 overdose deaths nationally. 2,296 of those were here in South Carolina. In 2023, I had started meeting some other local families from the Easley and Pickens area that had also lost children. And we were all basically saying the same things to each other, that we just didn't know. And had we known, if people had been talking about this then, would it have made a difference in our kids' lives? We decided something needed to be done, and we needed to come together as a group and go out and tell others in hopes that we could save their families from having to walk the walk that we are walking. Instead of grieving our children quietly, we chose to grieve them out loud, trying to reduce the stigma that comes with a substance abuse disorder. This week, 2 years ago, we held our first awareness rally in Easley, along with the Pickens County Sheriff's Office, Behavioral Health, Favor, the Phoenix Center, FEAR, and other groups. Since then, we have hosted or participated in over 20 community events, giving us the opportunity to put life-saving information in people's hands, resources for recovery, and Narcan. We have also made numerous trips to the State House along with other groups like ours from all over the state advocating for stronger legislation. I'm proud that South Carolina now has a fentanyl trafficking law and a fentanyl-induced homicide law. But most importantly, just being there for each other, most recently starting a once-a-month support group. I want to make sure that you all know that I definitely do not do this alone, and they don't know I'm doing this, but I'd like to recognize a couple of angel moms that are here. That are my sounding board for everything: Brandy Morgan, Amy Smith, Jennifer Bernard. I also cannot say enough good things about our local law enforcement, particularly Pickens County Sheriff's Office and Behavioral Health Pickens County. They have supported our mission from day one and are always eager to help with any project we have, whether it be our billboard campaigns or our newest project that will be putting Narcan distributing boxes in different locations around the county. They see the ugliness of this drug day in and day out and make it a priority to rid our neighborhoods of fentanyl, educate and treat those still suffering. I want to leave you with this. A friend of mine, actually Amy's husband, James, shared this earlier this week, and it really resonated with me. And it said, "Your ministry is focused where you have been broken. Your testimony is formed where you have been restored." The devastation of losing a child totally broke us as parents, but our testimony is that we will not quietly sit by and let the evil of this drug win. We will honor our children, by using our voices to do everything we can to save yours. Thank you.
God love you. I'm turning into an old softy in my old age. It gets me choked up. To watch her stand up here and speak and her hands shaking, this is not a lady that seeks the spotlight. And to know, thank you. That's all I know how to say. That's all I can say is thank you. Excuse me. A couple of things, a little housekeeping here at the end. There's a sign-up sheet up here at the front. So if you give me your name and your email address, we will keep you informed on future events. And that's the only thing we'll ever use your email for. We won't give it to anybody. We won't sell it to anybody. We won't give it to anybody. That's the only thing we'll use it for. Please, as you're able, tip the waitresses that were in here today. The food was free, but they're working. I mean, President Trump in the big, beautiful bill did remove taxes on tips, but they got to get the tips first. So, and they need to feed their families. So if you would, as you're able, please leave something on the table for them. Lastly, I'm the front man for this little group of folks, but Clay Counts, John Schaefer, Bonnie and Eric Hiltner, John Fezio, Don Crooks, who put a lot of work into this, making this event happen today. Thank you all. Without you, I certainly could not do this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your support and your help in doing this. Thank you. Yes, sir.
20 seconds.
Sure.
I forgot one thing.
You got some mic still.
Oh, my website, for those of you who want to learn more, Wilson for SC, Wilson, F-O-R, the preposition, not the number, for SC.com. If you go to those little lines, drop down. If you want to be a member of our coalition, we have veterans for Wilson, sportsmen for Wilson, moms for Wilson, regular people. If you don't follow them, we have the steering committee. You can click on and join a coalition, or reach out to send us the information. I'll come to your home. If you want to have an event, if you want to, just follow me on social media. It's all there at our website. So go there if you want to learn more. Thank you.
And lastly, thank all of you for caring enough about what's going on in your state and your community to show up today and try to be an informed voter and show support for a lady that's willing to get out and do something that's really extraordinary for all of us. I've lost a family member to fentanyl poisoning myself, so I really do appreciate it. Folks, I hope you enjoyed your meal. Please come back and see us again. Like I said, follow us on the Pickens County Republican Club Facebook page or sign up here. Either place will keep you informed on future events, and we will be busy coming up. Thank you very much. Yeah, help yourself.